Page 22, A Hard Day's Night. In this piece, they're introducing a few new notes. You can learn those. They're at the top of page 22. You can look at them and all that fun stuff. I'm not going to point out. You ought to be able to read the notes, I'm hoping, and get the rhythm fairly close, I'm hoping. So you don't really need me to point out every, but I'm going to point out a few tricky little finger numbers you might miss, okay? For instance, at the top of page 23, take a look at the first line. In the last measure, you're here, and then for those last 3 eighth notes, it's fourth finger. You got to reach up, and there's staccato. Then in the next measure, that's the second line, first measure, those last 3 eighth notes, that's the second finger. Same note, but different finger, just so you know. In the third line, first measure, the thumb is playing the E flat. You get a 1 beat rest, and now the thumb has to move up and play the G. Okay, but you got a rest to do it in, so it should be okay, I hope. That's about really all I need to point out for the right hand, except maybe the rhythm. You know, the rhythm, I'll talk about the rhythm in a minute. Let's go to the left hand. In the left hand, again, there's not a lot to point out. Take a look over on page 23 on the second line. In the first measure, it's 5-3 here. In the second measure, 4-2. Okay, and then in the third measure, it is a B flat. Then once you use the 2 again. I don't like that. So I recommend first measure is a 5-3. Then on the next measure, the G, B, I recommend a 4-1. Put the 1 on the B. Right there. That way your second finger is available for the B flat. I like that better. And that's really about the only thing I have to say about the left hand. Let's talk about the rhythm. Got these eighth notes all over the place, all right? And you need to be counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's in common time, which is 4-4. 4, let's see. It's basically the same trickiness all over the place. So let's just go to the top of page 23 and look at that. First measure at the top there. Now, be aware that the second finger is playing the E. It's also going to play the F. But you got to rest. You can move it up. So here we are. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. You have to count these out really, really carefully because the hands are overlapping a little bit. It's like they've got 2 totally different rhythms going on between the 2 hands, and you got to work them out. Work it out one hand at a time for a while if you have to. It's not that difficult one hand at a time. It's when you go to put the 2 hands together that things get tricky. Over on page 22 in the first line, take a look at the first full measure where you've got half notes in the right hand. You got 1 and 2. So you got to hold the half note down while you play this, and then when you play the next half note, let the left hand up because it's got to rest. Then hold it down while you play it. And then both hands come up on beat 3, so you get a half a beat rest before you play on. So work out the rhythm very carefully on the 2 hands to make sure you're holding all the notes down the correct length, because this gets a bit tricky. Now, as far as the roadmap on this thing, you're going to play the whole thing through once, both pages. When you get down to the bottom on page 23, you see a DS al fine. It's got end in parentheses. Fine means end, okay? DS al fine. DS means go back to the sign. Remember, DC means go back to the beginning. DS means go back to the sign. The sign is that squiggly thing over on page 22. First line, it's the first bar line you see. It's got that little thing above it. That's the sign. You go back to there. And then you play the fine. Now, this book, in my opinion, is just plain incorrect. Maybe this is a different way of doing it. I've never seen it done this way. I think it's incorrect. And they do this, they're consistent. They're just consistently incorrect, all right? Take a look on page 23, third line down, first measure. You see first the chord, or C7 plus 9, and then you see the fine. The fine tells you you're done. That's the end of the piece. When you go to do the DS, you play to that point and you're done. Well, there should be a double bar line there to indicate the end of the piece. And they didn't do that. They put the double bar line for the end of the piece down at the bottom on page 23 at the very end, and it doesn't go there. They could put a double bar line, but it should be two thin bars there if they're going to do that. But it shouldn't be a thin and a thick bar, because that is reserved for the end of the piece, and that is where the fine is. And so in my opinion, that's incorrect what they've done here. One thing I want to point out as far as holding the notes down the right length, take a look at the page 22 second line, second measure. On the first beat, you have the right hand playing the eighth notes. In the second beat, you've got two quarter note in each hand. Third beat, it's a quarter note in the left hand. But on the end of that beat, you have an eighth note. So for half a beat, we're hearing two notes. And then on beat 4, when the right hand plays the F, the left hand comes up. So it's that. That's what it means. Be very careful and exact how long you hold each of these notes down. All right, work it out slowly. Having said all that junk, let's try this out really, really slowly, okay? I mean slowly. Now, there's a pickup of 1.5 beats. I'm going to give us almost 3 count. I'm going to go to 3, and then we're going to start on the end of 3. So we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3. Like that. That's what we're going to try. So go ahead and put your hands where they go. Now let's try this out and see what happens. 1 and 2 and go. 3. 3 rest. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2, 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1, 2, 3.